And Dr. Ballantyne.
The first thing is that Arizona school districts are only empowered to do what the legislature gives us the power to do. So we get lots of suggestions, well, you can increase taxes. Well, we're only empowered to levy the taxes the legislature gives us, or you could use these monies to do it. So we can only work within the parameters we're given under Arizona revised statutes. The other common thing that came up in conversations last night after the presentation was the importance of understanding the various funds that the school district operates with. Tonight we'll hear references to a lot of different funding sources. Virtually all the funding sources that a school district works with has some form of a limitation on it. This fund can only be used for these expenses. These funds can only be used for those. So in some situations, the funds are separate and distinct and cannot be used for purposes other than what they've been established for. And so as you see tonight, as I go through my presentation and Dr. Ballantyne goes through her presentation, you'll see reference to some of the more common funds. The first is the Maintenance and Operation Fund, which is the core general fund budget of the school district. This is where the bulk of the day-to-day non-capital expenditures occur at. This is where our primary property taxes as well as our override funds come through. You'll hear us talk about the unrestricted capital funds, which are funds that can be used for capital purposes throughout the district in an unrestricted manner. You'll hear references to soft capital funds, which are capital funds that are solely directed towards the classroom. Educational purposes, cannot be used for administrative expenses, cannot be used to build buildings. You'll hear reference to the deficiency or the building renewal funds, which are monies that were intended specifically for the maintenance of school facilities. So just as that is sort of an introduction, then I can jump on in and just give you some information. So in order to get to today, it's kind of important to look at the last couple of years to see what we've actually been through budgetarily. Starting in the 2008-2009 year, we were given mid-year budget cuts by the legislature as the state struggled to balance its budget. They made reductions of $364,000 to our soft capital funds. We lost funding to our building renewal funds in excess of $2.1 million. We had a base support level cut of $1.7 million, and those are funds that go to our maintenance and operation fund, our core day-to-day expenditures. And in addition to that, they did a sweep of cash balances that did not represent a budget cut, but actually took cash from the district that would have otherwise been used to lower property taxes in the following year. Not many people are aware of these cuts. So many of these cuts were made in core operations, the facilities department, technology department, right across the central office. We did the best we could during the first year of the cuts to keep the cuts away from the classroom. For this year, we had reductions in career ladder funding, which is money specifically intended for performance pay systems for teachers. We had an additional cut to soft capital of $2.4 million. We had a base support level cut of $490,000, which goes to our general fund. And then we had, again, a non-funding of the building renewal formula. I do want to point out that the last time that formula was fully funded for school districts was in the 2006-2007 year. The following year, it was funded at approximately a 25% basis. So you can see quite significant numbers accumulating in unfunded building renewal projects. So when looking at the school district and its cuts, it's important to look at the Arizona budget deficit. Over 40 states right now are experiencing some form of a state imbalance between revenues and expenditures. Depending on how you look at the equation, Arizona is either 1 to 3, generally in the top 3 of most forms of calculations as far as having the largest structural deficits in their operations, which is basically fixed expenditures exceeding revenue sources. It's important to note that on a per capita basis for personal income, Arizona ranks 45th in the nation as far as its taxation rate. And according to the Arizona Tax Foundation, we rank overall 41st relative to its overall tax effort, and that 41st represents Arizona at its lowest point over the recent years. Considering inflation, had there not been numerous tax cuts over the past few years, Arizona would have approximately 2.6 more in funds to work with than they currently have to work with. When you look at K-12 education, the most common thing is Arizona is at the bottom on a per pupil spending amount. Sometimes we're 49, sometimes we're 48, sometimes we're 50. I think we're definitely a 50 right now. You can see the averages on what the national averages look like. Ranking Arizona at approximately 6,200 versus the 9,300 on a national basis. And overall, between 86 and 2007, we've actually had an actual drop in funding. Class size, Arizona has one of the highest class size ratios in the nation. Unfortunately, this is an area that we've unfortunately had to use to keep things in balance. It's a problem the whole state faces. I invite anyone who would like a copy of this PowerPoint just to email me and I can drop you a copy, or we probably will be placing a copy out on the district's website. And then with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Valentine and we can answer any questions you may have.